Okay, we need to talk about a paradox that's sitting right at the heart of modern finance. It's about how trillions of dollars in sustainable investing are being guided by, well, deeply flawed data. And what's really interesting is how the very tool designed to fix it, artificial intelligence, might actually be creating an even bigger problem. Let's get into it.
So it all starts with this question. You have this absolute flood of money trying to find good, sustainable companies. But the gatekeepers, right? The big ESG rating agencies, they just can't seem to agree on who those companies actually are. And look, this isn't just a small difference of opinion. It's a fundamental conflict that's creating massive confusion for investors who are just trying to do the right thing with their money.
So, what's really causing all this chaos? Before we can even think about a solution, we have to understand where the problem comes from. Let's break down exactly why ESG data is in such a tangled mess to begin with. And believe me, this isn't some hypothetical scenario. Just take a look at a company like Global Corp. Agency A thinks it's a sustainability leader, giving it an 85. But Agency B, they see a company that's barely scraping by with a 52. So if you're an investor, who do you believe? This is the reality of what researchers have dubbed aggregate confusion. This disagreement really boils down to three core issues. First off, their scope divergence. The agencies aren't even looking at the same checklist of problems. Then you have measurement divergence, and this is actually the biggest driver of all the confusion. Both agencies might say they're tracking employee satisfaction, but one is looking at official turnover rates while the other is scraping online employee reviews. Totally different data. And finally, there's weight divergence. One agency might think carbon emissions are everything, while another cares way more about the company's board structure. It's like they're all trying to bake a cake, but with completely different recipes and ingredients. All of this chaos has created a huge opening for a new kind of analyst. One that never sleeps and can literally read everything, everywhere, all at once. And that's where AI comes in. And here's the fundamental shift. See, traditional analysis is slow, it's backward-looking, and it mostly relies on what companies decide to tell us in their glossy annual reports. AI just flips that on its head. It's more like an outside investigator, scanning millions of sources in real time to build a picture of what's actually happening on the ground, right now. So, how does this detective actually work? Well, first, it just drinks from a fire hose of data, all unstructured stuff. Then it starts to make sense of it using tools like natural language processing to figure out the meaning and sentiment behind news articles or social media posts. Or it uses computer vision to interpret physical changes from satellite images. And finally, it turns all that noise into a clear signal, a real-time risk alert, or a dynamic ESG score that reflects today's reality, not some report from last year. And here's a really powerful example of what this looks like in action. A company can claim all day long that it's reduced its carbon footprint, but an AI using satellite data can actually measure the emissions coming from its factory smokestacks. This moves ESG out of the world of corporate storytelling and into the world of objective, verifiable data. It basically forces companies to be transparent whether they want to be or not. Now, this ability to independently check a company's claims, it makes AI the perfect tool for tackling one of the biggest problems in sustainable finance: greenwashing. So what is greenwashing really? At its core, it's pretty simple. It's just the gap between what a company says, that's their ESG talk, and what they actually do, their ESG walk. It's really just the art of looking a lot more sustainable than you are. This matrix lays it out perfectly. You've got four types of companies. In the top right, you have the vocal green firms. These are the good ones. They talk the talk and they walk the walk. But AI's real target is that top left box, the greenwashing firms. These are the companies with glowing press releases and beautiful sustainability reports, but their actual real-world performance is poor. AI is uniquely designed to spot that exact gap. The way it works is simple, but it's incredibly powerful. The AI reads the official report, the talk. Then, it cross-references all those claims against everything it's seeing out in the real world, from news, social media, and sensor data, the walk. And when those two stories don't line up, boom, it raises a red flag. But just as AI starts to look like the perfect solution, a whole new problem starts to emerge. And this one is much, much harder to see. The very tool we built to bring us clarity might be creating a new and maybe even more dangerous kind of confusion. This quote just nails the twist perfectly. We've basically traded the aggregate confusion of human raters for the algorithmic opacity of AI. In trying to solve the problem, we've kind of just swapped one black box for another. So the first big challenge is bias. An AI is only as good as the data you feed it. So if the historical news data it's trained on covers issues that, say, European companies more than Asian ones,
Well, the AI will learn that blind spot. It can end up perpetuating old biases, and that creates an unfair and frankly inaccurate picture of risk. And this leads to an even bigger, more systemic problem: the black box. The AI spits out a low score for a company, but we have absolutely no idea why. We can't see its reasoning. And this is so critical because how can you possibly hold a company accountable based on a score from a system that isn't accountable itself? A great real-world example of this whole dilemma is Ant Group's Sesame credit system. I mean, on one hand, it's this revolutionary AI that gave millions of people access to credit for the very first time. Amazing. But on the other hand, it's been slammed for being a total black box. Users don't know how their scores are calculated, and it could potentially penalize people for reasons they can't see or even understand. It just shows you both the incredible power and the hidden danger.
So, where do we go from here? Well, the next evolution in this entire field is focused on one single thing: cracking open that black box and forcing the algorithm to finally show its work.
And this is where something called Explainable AI, or XAI, comes into play. XAI is a field dedicated entirely to making machine learning transparent. The whole goal is to transform the AI from an unknowable black box into an understandable glass box. Imagine getting an ESG score, but instead of just a number, you get a full report. An XAI system could highlight the exact red flags it found, maybe a series of negative headlines about deforestation, or a sudden spike in social media posts about methane leaks that actually influenced its decision. It doesn't just give you the answer, it shows you the evidence. This process really shows how it works. Your standard AI makes a decision, right? High environmental risk. But then the XAI layer adds two more crucial steps. It provides an interpretation, pointing to keywords like deforestation and methane, and then an explanation, connecting those terms to negative impacts. It gives you not just the what, but also the why. Ultimately, the goal here isn't just to build a smarter ESG rating system. It's to build a wiser one that is not only powerful in its accuracy, but also completely transparent in its reasoning and fully accountable to the people who rely on it. And that really leaves us with the defining question for the next era of finance. We know AI isn't going anywhere, but as it automates more and more of our world, the real challenge isn't just making it more intelligent. It's about building systems that we can genuinely understand and trust. Because the future of a sustainable market really depends on us getting this right.